So I'm not able to represent the art here as well as it should be represented because of the light. But if I could have your attention, gentlemen.
That's what I wanted to say.
That's a nice image right there.
Thank you, Mark.
So
You sing
I was told to play this and then introduce Consuelo. So we'll play it first.
Soho Muse is a private, global, online community where creative professionals from all fields can network, collaborate, and create. Promote your work with stunning profiles that serve as website alternatives. Showcase your various talents with multimedia portfolio galleries. Curate and share your content via email and social media. Soho Muse is a community built by creatives for creatives with the tools and features that meet the needs of the creative industry, like digital interactive business cards with integrated phone, email, and Skype, a customizable resume template, support for multiple occupations.
Saying that, we win the leaders are the giants. We're the little guys.
Opportunities. Privacy settings at every level give you complete control over who sees your media. And it's fully mobile, so you can manage your profile from anywhere. Soho News is a private, invitation-only platform, ensuring the highest quality membership. For those seeking talent, it's a one-stop shop for the best creative professionals. And the highly refinable search allows you to quickly and easily identify your ideal candidates. That talent with an endorsement system of real industry referrals you can interact with. Be part of a growing community of the world's best creative talent. Network without borders and expand your horizons. Welcome to Soho News, the trusted source for creative professionals.
Just for the record, I usually say no infomercials, and I allowed one. But I guess it helps explain what you're about to tell us. So we put these two panels together because Consuelo is involved in the impact and the NextGen world. We'll talk about with Jason. Jennifer heard earlier is touches impact as a venture, as a family office, as a VC fund. Plus, we talked about inclusion, which is sort of a theme we like to talk about with impact. And then I turn it over to Wendy Diamond, who's rolling with the punches here. Who's from Ohio. So we got that in common. Maybe there's something I like about you. Who will introduce the rest of the panel. And we'll talk about impact philanthropy because we have to use our resources more effectively, just like a company or a venture fund. And we as a community can help with that. So why don't you kick us off, Consuelo? Might start with this emerging industries and what you're doing and why, and we'll go on to Jennifer, and then we'll switch it over to the full-on impact philanthropy panel.
Me. Jesus, I really am.
You're good.
I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure that everyone is wide awake right now. Are we wide awake? Yes. It always has to be dull and beige with me, so. So, why? Always the important question of why. Why do you start a company? Why now? Why in this emerging market? So, the freelance economy. What is happening in the creative economy of today? So, it is a $2 trillion economy and growing exponentially. It is so extraordinary, since COVID, especially what's actually happening. So why did I do this and why was this so important? I really saw a need and a void in the marketplace for building projects. So brands needing to find talent. So whether that's brands such as Pepsi campaigns needing both below the line talent, above the line talent in specific cities, that they could actually vet and find the talent, and also internally. So creatives needing to build projects. So if I'm building a fashion show, music videos, TV shows, needing actually that support. Why? Because everything in our world is very fragmented. So that means that the creative industry, most creatives are multifaceted. That means that they do more than one thing, right? So if I'm a producer, I probably am also an actor, I'm also a writer and a dancer, right? And so I probably have also multiple representation. And there's only really the top 10% who are repped by William Morris, CAA. So that means I have multiple different agents in multiple different places. And now am I having to micromanage my entire career literally through technology? It's not what I want to be doing as a creative. I've been a Billboard recording artist my whole life, and I'm going to tell you that is not the world that I want to be in. It is not. I don't want to be building my website. That's not what I want to be doing. I want to be doing my music. I want to be in my art. I want to be in my creativity. So really, we saw such a need for being able to build a vetted community where you could actually go in and be the best of yourself and be able to connect with like-minded individuals, career opportunities, work that, work begets work. And so there's also this wonderful theme in our world that people seem to think that creatives don't need to get paid. I don't know what makes people actually believe that that's okay. Why should a writer not get paid and the lawyer gets paid? Could someone please give me that philosophy? People still go to school for this. It's amazing. Absolutely not. I stand for creatives all across the gamut getting paid. Really, it's not okay. And parents live in this beautiful narrative that their kids shouldn't be in the creative industry because they don't make enough money. Can we not change that narrative? It's an extraordinary, it's just an amazing career in so many different ways. So one of the things that we're doing is actually, my site is based on multiple different tiers. And in our younger tier, we're building a career day. So we actually go into schools and we highlight different areas inside of the creative industry that people don't necessarily know about. And we're working with banking institutions like JP Morgan, who also help to showcase how creatives can actually help to monetize. How important is that? I see that man nodding his head. Exactly right. And then we work with people like Emilio Estefan, building huge mentors, and then actually giving these creatives opportunities, building, retraining the narrative, and that helps parents to actually understand what to do. So that's a little bit in a nutshell. Wow.
Thank you. And Jennifer, without talking about AI, that was a panel from before, but maybe what you see the most otherwise exciting opportunities. We'll talk about the impacts that you can talk about impact too, but just what do you see in emerging industries that you're excited about?
So to piggyback off of what you said a little bit, I started out as a scenic artist. So I started out as a painter and paid my way through college as a painter, to back up what you said, and a carpenter and a welder. So if anybody needs a straight weld, I'm your girl. And one of my favorite stories was that when Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, he originally painted everybody in the nude because he felt that God had told him to do so. And an art critic, of course, walked in and wrote a scathing review saying you cannot paint people in the nude. And the Pope read the review, went back and made Michelangelo paint all those little wisps of fabric on everybody. Like there was all this like well-placed fabric floating around heaven, covering everybody up. And when he went in at night to paint the fabric, he also painted the art critic in hell. And so I learned very early in my art career that he who writes the check makes the rule, because the Pope paid for the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo had to do what he said. I think what I am most excited about is that when we democratize generational wealth, we break up Michelangelo and the Pope a little bit and make them work together. And that is what I see happening in the democratization of family wealth that we're seeing over the next 10 years. And that's what I'm excited about.
Love it.
I was thinking Michelangelo, then I was thinking Angela, but she was not here, but she's also involved in that democratization. But she could have had her cue there. All right, again, right before we go back to the impact full on, classic question, but that's what excites you. What scares you in these fields? Why can't you reach the potential that you need to? What's holding you back?
Who are you talking to?
Both of you.
1% of all general partners at all are female, and it gets worse as you go up the capital stack. That's what scares me. What scares me is a daughter trying to raise capital in that ridiculous environment by the time I'm in the ground. That's terrifying. But it's not going to happen at the rate that we're deploying.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And again, it's the same thing that I was just saying. It's really changing the narrative about parents really feeling that there's this stigma about creatives not making money. And I want to change that narrative of creatives having the opportunity to make money. And and especially since the pandemic, we've gone back so exponentially about females, not being able to really go out into the marketplace and feel secure enough to know that they're going to be able to go and raise money for their companies. How is that okay in today's market? Why is it we have got to be able to change that narrative. So that's why we're here with you, Mark, today.
Well,
All of you,
and
to change this.
on that note, so those themes are important to the impact philanthropy sides of what we do. Let's turn it over to Wendy to introduce herself on her panel.
Is this on? Can you hear me?
It's easy.
It's this one. Okay.
Hello. Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy. I'm here because, a decade ago, I learned that 250 million girls were living in poverty. 1% of venture dollars went toward women founders, and ended up in a little, town in the murder capital of the world of Honduras. And was supposed to spend a couple hours to see this little organization that gives microloans to poor women. And that's where I was like, whoa, I spent 3 days and just met with all these women and learned all about the statistics of women. And that's why I created Women's Entrepreneurship Day around the world. And that's how I met Sophia. And one of the things I'm so excited about is impact, because I've been in it my entire life. At day one, no one would give me a job. I created the animal rescue movement in America. If you Google me, you'll see all this stuff. And so the biggest thing for me is I will not invest in anything that's not going to make a difference in this world. So very, very invested in really like emerging managers and very much impact funds, as well as some of the greatest, entrepreneurs in the entire world really making impact. So first off, I'm going to go one by one. Why are you guys standing up?
Because better sound effective.
They want to stand next to him.
I know.
Okay, cool.
Just give them a one. Right.
That's really important stuff. That's what's going on. So, Sophia, I've known, it's about a decade, right? How long have we known each other?
Yeah.
It is a decade. I never say I know anyone more than a decade because it sounds too old. All right, listen, Sophia, your journey seriously has been so impressive. Like your background in Afghanistan, and now with what you are doing with the refugees from Afghanistan and all the incredible work you're doing. And now you're fun. Can you tell everybody about what you're working on, what you're so passionate about right now?
Yes, thank you very much, Wendy. And they say that friendships really only start after 10 years. So I hope you don't jettison me just yet. So my name is Sophia Swire. I know some of you here in the audience, Todd and my colleague Elizabeth Adonisio. And I've had a rather unusual journey, it's true. I started off in the city way back when as an institutional investor back in the 80s, and turned that aside because I, like you, wanted to have a life of meaning and impact, and went out to the Hindu Kush, set up a bunch of schools. Because I had a background in the private sector, I was very aware that to motivate people sustainably, there needed to be some skin in the game. There needed to be some way that they could benefit. So every school that I set up was a private school. And as a result of that, the vast majority of them that weren't closed down by the Taliban or swept away by flooding and earthquakes are still thriving. And those schools, because we gave them a more secular curriculum, became the bulwarks against the rise of radical Islam, and have really transformed the economies of the villages and the towns in which they were founded. But also, because I, like you, believe in sort of energizing female talents, we made sure that every school that we funded focused on girl-child education. And we're talking 1989, 1990, the early 90s, before girl-child education became a thing, and certainly before impact became a thing. But what I learned as a practitioner is that if you want to get anything done in life, you have to invest in women, you have to back women. And I don't say that as a rampant feminist, far from it. When I started my career, I had 500, it was 500 men and me, and believe me, I liked it, I enjoyed it. So that I, like you, believe that in order to rebalance the world and to have a chance of doing things perhaps a little more sustainably and inclusively, we have to invest in women, and we have to ideally identify more talented female general partners and have more female funds focused on inevitably more female founders. So that's my thing, that's become my thing. And I'm wittering on too much, so I'm going to pass the thing back to you.
Woohoo! All right, next up, let's start with Jason. Jason, you are a NextGen leader, a mentor, and an unbelievable investor. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what you're working on, what you're passionate about?
Sure. Well, first of all, Alistair and I were joking that we're sitting down next to the female leadership giants, right? I myself, I got 2 Gen Z daughters. So I am very invested in grooming next-gen leaders, especially women. In fact, the majority of my one-on-one students and mentees are female. And I'm seeing a trend now, even in Ivy League schools and all that, there's more female than male. So things are changing incrementally. Besides, a lot of you know me as a chief mentor of next-gen leaders. Besides my very exciting tech company at this stage, very exciting, and some investing. I'm very focused on helping, I get the privilege to mentor quite a bit of high achievers over the past 17 years in my 39 years in the industry in Silicon Valley. I know I look like I just graduated high school, but I'm actually a tail end boomer. And I see patterns at work, patterns that don't work in terms of mindsets, soft skills, communication, leadership skills, strategies, execution. So I'm very big on grooming kids, where I even call 40-year-old CEOs to come to me as kids, right? Because I'm much older, probably. Teenagers and all that. Now, when it comes to impact, I tend to define impact is not necessarily just environment and social, is that if you love and serve your neighbors, the society, and solving real good problems that really make society, our world, a truly better place, not just rhetorical, political BS. That's impact. The best thing is that you solve a great problem, whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, engineer, or investor, and you also get to make a lot of money. I tend to do both, but combine both. There's no need to be one or the other. I think it's a very smart thing. It's all doable. I believe that most of us, if not all of us here, we are not even close to being fully optimized in our reaching into our full potential. So my own philosophy is that I like to help people optimize the mindset, soft skill strategies, execution, and plan, and also help them maximize the outcomes that's relevant to the life stage, whether you're a teenager or a 50-year-old CEO. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you, Jason. Now, Alistair. Yachts. Queen's Commonwealth Trust. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on, the impact that you're having with your yacht company, as well as the Queen's Commonwealth Trust?
And Alistair, I've got your slide up there.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear this? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to be here and see some familiar faces and some new friends as well. My background is yacht design. I've won international awards in sustainability, innovation, and yacht design. And during that process in 2009, I was speaking with lots of super yacht owners and charter clients over the years, where many are also philanthropic. So I said to myself, how can I join the dots and connect the two worlds from my career, if you like, the day job, with my passion, which is philanthropy. That was because one of my mentors encouraged me to write my own eulogy. That sounds quite morbid, and it was a quite emotional process, but in that moment, I realized that my trajectory, hopefully, all boils down to one word, which is philanthropy. And so now I'm really enjoying the fact that I can connect the ultra-high net worth community, yacht owners with, and so we can, through the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, help with lots of different areas of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so far, they're changing countless lives. And so for me, it's great when I can put together an event on a yacht with some of my clients and other philanthropists. We flew in someone from Zambia, who I think Mark met, and she and her charity so far has saved 13,000 girls from being trafficked in Zambia. So it's those sort of impact projects that I love to support just by simply connecting my two worlds between the two. And obviously, if you've got questions more about the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, I'll happy to try and answer them, but certainly connect you with them in London. Yeah, it's a real honor to work with them and support their extraordinary work.
And she told a really touching story because she was trafficked, and that's one of the issues that we all need to be collaborating on. That is another kind of work that we need to be taking on.
That's exactly right. And every time I hear her story, the first time was in St. James's Palace in London at a special gala event. And Alina told us how her own father trafficked her and she escaped. And it gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. But if I can do just a little bit by connecting those dots and stopping these atrocities, we can do so much together if we work as, I think, cross-pollinating my career and my passion for yachting, but why not solve some world issues at the same time? So that's the idea.
Dr. Wendy. Did we get a Yahoo? Wendy?
I have a mic. This one's not working.
Fantastic. All right, so this is okay. So I have to admit, I got this like assignment, a little late, and so I had to go to ChatGPT to get really good questions. So I started bringing up AI. Anyway, so this is actually a ChatGPT question.
Oh boy.
A few of you mentioned about philanthropy and about collaboration, etc. How can impact investing support sustainable development goals and contribute to addressing global challenges such as climate change, poverty alleviation, and for me, a very important subject, gender equality? Let's go with you, Sophia.
And it's funny that you should ask that because
You almost threw her off the chair.
no, because the investment strategy of the fund that Elizabeth and I are working on is exactly that. It's aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, and because gender equality underpins all of them, if you don't somehow include women, which after all are 51% of the population, we're not a minority, then you don't really have a chance of delivering on any of the others. So I think that if you are an impact investor and you, I think it's an opportunity to basically deliver some of the shortfall. There's something like $3 trillion a year shortfall in delivering the Sustainable Development Goals. We now have 7 years in which to deliver them. We've fallen back on every single one. So the deliverables that we've chosen are SDG number 5, gender equality, climate action. We've got good health and well-being and quality education. And those are the sectors that we've chosen. We've also chosen North Africa and the Middle East, because this is an area that receives 1.3% of global private equity and venture capital funding for women. And yet more than 50% of graduates now are women, and they're setting up incredible businesses. They're just not getting the access to finance that they need to build and scale them. So that's where hopefully we come in. And we're going to assist those companies to align further. If they're not already fully aligned with the SDGs, we'll be helping them to align further. And I personally think it's critical. There's so many different standards. The UN SDGs is one that most governments around the world have signed up to. Every single government on the planet is falling short of its goals. And we can't keep failing. Last week, as you know, was the hottest week on the planet since records began. So I think we have to do whatever we can.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to?
I think one of the reasons why we're failing is that we look at impact investing as a separate but equal strategy. And I think we're in the US, I think we can all agree that segregated strategies don't work, right? And so one of the biggest mistakes that family offices like ours and like the people I see in this room make is that you see impact investing as a silo or bucket that you have to allocate a certain percentage to, instead of saying the mass sum of my wealth is my vote, and I decide where these dollars go. So for us, we decided that we would no longer deploy to funds that did not have diverse managers. And now 90%, 85 to 90%, depending on which fund you look at, of the money that we've sent out the door is managed by women, people of color, underrepresented founders. And so the beautiful thing about bias is it works two ways. In this room, we have the power to diversify the capital stack by allocating differently and still getting the returns that we want. We just have to demand it and demand the transparency. So it starts with us.
So let me interject, if I might. Mark gave me the microphone, so you're in trouble. But that leads me to a perfect question, which is, you sort of said, it's not just a percentage of your portfolio, it's got to be deeper than that. I want to take it over to the family involved. How to get, what do you say about, and how do you get deeper involvement in the family of wealth with their impact or their charitable endeavors? And because I believe that's a way you improve that impact over much longer time frames. And I'm curious about how you can use, you've seen impact investing being used to drive greater family engagement with the, whether it's the SDG objectives or the impact objectives or whatever. I'm curious about your comment on it. Thank you.
The non-chat GPT question.
Don't worry, I didn't have to Google the answer. I think, like, in the question lies the problem. You just equated charitable initiatives with impact investing. So the way that we've gotten more families involved is by providing venture returns and creating transparency to how we do that, to loop them into the investment process, to train them up on that process. And then philanthropy is a different thing.
I'd like to make one point. In 2014, I met a goat farmer in Botswana because of my foundation. We're really, strong in Africa. And this goat farmer created the Satoshi Center in her one-room hut. And she learned about Bitcoin in 2011 because she couldn't afford healthcare for her son. And this woman, literally took her one-room hut with the dirt floor and created the center. And she's now advising the government. And when I learned about Bitcoin, I went to our family and I basically said, oh my gosh, this is going to change the world. And I really want to invest in it. And literally they gave me 1/10 of what I asked for, Bitcoin. And then when the Ethereum came around, I was like, oh my gosh, we want to blah, blah, blah. And again, it was like 1/20th at that time, for Ethereum. So getting them, they finally got into it and they gave me more, ability to kind of make decisions. We've been investing completely in women, a lot in women founders. One woman founder created the 23andMe for pets to help them live longer and help your lives. And my background is pet. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get into this. And literally, she's going out for a Series A and Zoetta Spot or 30X. And literally now pets, pet food companies and the pet health companies now are using that data and creating new, medical and better pet food for your pets to help them live longer and healthier lives. So I think that, it's really important for people to take that action themselves, right? So do you want to speak about this?
I'll speak after you.
You talk about that. I'll talk about something else.
Sure. I'm going to take a bit of a different perspective here. I could talk micro and investment all day long, but I'm going to give you a macro global perspective. I'm a member of the Business 20, the B20, which is the G20's official forum or engagement group or arm that represent the entire global business community, the private sector. So technically, we represent all the companies here. What we do is to push policy recommendations to the governments, and we help advocate, and they implement part of our recommendations. And there are a couple of our task forces. I sit on the Future Work and Education Task Force. India, that chairs G20 this year, they renamed it to Future Work, Skilling, and Mobility. Now, a couple of things that tie into a lot of what we do, and you could view it as from an investor standpoint, from a family office standpoint, from an entrepreneur standpoint, however, wherever you sit at, okay? So what we want to do is to help improve these systems and that promotes entrepreneurship, really promote growth worldwide. And we are totally into promoting and advocating for lifelong learning, improving systems, right? From K-12 through adult education and all that. Right now, I help so many kids get into Ivy League schools. Even Ivy League schools are so disconnected with what the employers want. What employers want is really employable skills. It's hard and soft skills. Hard skill is going to get obsolete in a long time. Soft skill is going to stick with you forever here. A lot of the tie to impact is your work impactful? How's that? That's impact too. And another thing is rural mobility. That applies more to some of the more disadvantaged societies and countries out there. But my encouragement here is that, and I've been pushing for upskilling, reskilling. We were talking about AI augmentation 9 years ago, since I was at G20, B20 Australia. And I've been through 9 countries' regimes, right? So, and then generative AI came a little bit sooner than I thought. And now it's ever more important for us to help the disadvantaged, especially the older people, some younger people as well, that don't know how to really reskill and upskill. What can we do as leaders to help them? And what can we do as leaders, not to be bureaucratic and political, but really create better public-private partnerships with governments, right? Local, state, and national. But the US is very complicated. Some countries out there are a little bit easier. So I want you to leave you with those thoughts from a macro standpoint and think about what's your role in it. What can we do to improve that equation?
Well, just from a macro standpoint, the CHIPS Act is deploying through innovation hubs in each area of the country right now, and there's government funding addressing that on a macro level that we can all tap into to sidecar our projects.
One of the things about our foundation is we created the first ever women in disability startup cohort to help disabled women become entrepreneurs. We launched that 3 years ago, and now Google for Startups is funding the whole thing alongside the SBA. And as well as working with, I feel is so important is that we're bringing philanthropists, we're bringing governments, and like what we do with our foundations, we bring governments, business leaders, civil society, entrepreneurs, investors together to collaborate to find solutions to economically empower women. How are you all working with all these parties to support the initiatives that you're working on?
So I'm a huge believer in collaboration and bringing different parties to the table. So you were talking earlier about Michelangelo and the Pope. So I'm spending more and more time in the Vatican actually. And the reason is, of course, they have tens of millions of people who follow them, and ditto the Church of England. And so much of this is capturing the hearts and minds of hundreds of millions of people, right? We're such an elite, we're such a tiny elite, there's only so much we can do, even though there may be billions of dollars in the tent, I don't know. But we really need to scale everything that we're trying to do. And so I was in Pakistan a couple of months ago, still overseeing the evacuation efforts, and I went to see the Ministry of Health, and I said, what is the biggest single problem that you have to address in Pakistan at the moment? And they said, the population explosion. So I said, well, why, I suppose you're going to have a problem with the mullahs, they won't agree with birth control. And the Minister of Health said, well, actually, they do agree with birth control. There's nothing in the Quran that says we can't have control over your fertility. The problem is that the cost of contraception here in Pakistan is so high because everything is imported. And so I said, well, why don't you create a homegrown industry? And they said, well, we're sort of government people. We don't know how to do that. I said, well, has no one ever thought to you that you could maybe reach out to a company in Brazil or whatever and sort of fund a startup here? And they said, why would the Brazilians want to invest in Pakistan? Good question. But the answer is that if you can bring in USAID, if you can bring in the development finance institutions, the IFC, if you can bring in the top pharmaceutical or chemical companies or whatever it takes now to make a Pakistani condom, this isn't like the silver bullet. This is the thing that is going to solve that problem in Pakistan. And it just requires getting people who you wouldn't normally put around the table together. And ditto in sub-Saharan Africa, where obviously large swathes of the country are soon going to be uninhabitable, the Vatican is getting very involved in the Great Green Wall projects. And so I'm speaking to them and philanthropists and others about the kinds of things that we can do, all of us, to mitigate the climate changes that are taking place, that are going to force hundreds of millions of climate-related refugees our way, whether we like it or not. And there's only so much that the military is going to be able to do to mitigate that. So we really, really need to be all hands on deck, politicians, thought leaders, religious leaders. Everyone needs to sit around the table and examine these things from a holistic point of view and work not in silos, but collaboratively.
I think it's so extraordinary what you're doing. Really. So one of the things that we're really focusing in on the mentorship and kind of moving to what you're talking about is really about education and about mentoring. And so we are, and I was talking about this morning, September 8th, we have joined forces with Emilio Estefan, and we are putting together at the Guggenheim Museum, for the first time actually putting together the greatest Latin designers who've never been showcased during New York Fashion Week and up and coming young designers. This is all kind of the amazing, the Latin industry in America is about 18% of our population, which is absolutely extraordinary. And this demographic is just not been focused on, and not, well, let's say it's not enough care has been taken care of here. So we really are taking a lot of initiative here, both on the music side and both on the fashion side, to really highlight and give them really opportunities to be able to come in and showcase, and by Amelia being there to really present kind of a whole mentoring opportunity for them. So that's going to be September 8th, and so I welcome everyone to be able to come who's going to be in New York. And so that's really a big aspect of what we're looking at right now, because mentorship is something that I think that in schools is really not being highlighted. And so it's something we're looking at. Thank you. Alistair, could you tell us a little bit about the Queen's Commonwealth Trust and how you're working with the UK government in all the aspects that you're involved with?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so just to clarify, I am not the Queen's Commonwealth Trust. I'm here to help represent and support them. I'm an exclusive yachting partner, so I love to do everything with them where I can and help guide and direct and shine a light on the incredible work they're doing. They're looking at various United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and it's quite a nice synergy because I'm also working with an NGO committee in New York around that subject. And so they focus on inclusion, education, healthcare black holes in Africa, ocean conservation. The 14th Sustainable Development Goal is life below and above the waterline, which is obviously, again, a direct parallel to my world of yachting as well. If there wasn't beautiful and unique seas, no one would go sailing on them. So there's so many overlaps, and I think through that, there's many ways in which we can support and help, whether it's coral gardeners and conservation and helping with the ocean side of things, but indeed with all the young women and girls out in the world. You know, if we can give them an education, get them out of poverty, you solve so many other cyclic issues, whether that's human trafficking and other things. So the Queen's Commonwealth Trust are doing extraordinary work, and they find great charities on the ground already changing communities. But with a little more guidance, they'll be self-propelling and sustainable for forever, we hope. And so it's thoroughly rewarding, and I enjoy supporting them where I can.
All right, these people are so extraordinary. Does anybody have any questions does anybody have any questions that they want to ask this unbelievable panel? Lisa.
Well, I would say this: we continue this discussion. We're giving the Impact Roundtable the outside by the boats area, so you can continue that discussion. And I'll say maybe we'll move. There are also drinks that can accompany that roundtable, and all of the roundtables are going to be 4. All right, and then here's how it's going to work. Global markets will be up here. So we talked about China, we talked about trading strategies, etc. AI and data. And where's Adrian? Is Adrian here? He's right. He's exactly where he needs to be, because those tables are going to be talking about AI and data. If you want to talk about venture, but other than AI, because there's so many fields over here in this back 2 tables. Again, global markets, AI data, other venture / private equity. Impact. Bar.
Bar first and impact.
Most impact by the bar.
But before we leave,
Bar first and impact. Okay.
yes, I saw baristas, bar, and boats. He's ready for you. But maybe the last word for each of you, has to literally, what's the, like a sentence, maybe, as your final thoughts on impact and philanthropy.
Sure.
So I say invest in women GPs, invest in female founders. Venture-backed, female-led companies are more sustainable, they return more on capital, and they exit faster.
Nice. Wow. Everyone in the world wants to help. You just have to make it really easy for them. So everyone in the world will feel better if they have a purpose in life. So reach out to people, explain what you're passionate about. I can guarantee you'll find supporters.
I'm all about actionable stuff. So figure out what your North Star is and then invest like it.
I'm also about generational wealth and about just sustaining and being really smart and also being purposeful and driven as well. So keeping that in mind so that, that wealth does really sustain. So keeping that.
Right. I guess I'll take a slightly different perspective. Encourage and support your kids, your children, your grandchildren, because they are the next generation. Be patient with them. No one's perfect. We're not perfect. If we're perfect, we're God. We're not. And do the best you can, applying your resources to really encourage them, and just love them to death.
If you're lucky enough to find a mentor to encourage you to write your own eulogy, I thoroughly encourage you to do it. You'll find out what your why is in life. And for me, that was philanthropy. And there's loads of other ways you can connect your day job, your career with philanthropic causes that you're close to your heart and hopefully change the world as a result.
Perfect. Well, stay with there for a second. I wrote this slide in 2008. Not exactly, but pretty much. When I had I'm from Denison. I went to Denison University. Anybody know Denison University?
Denison?
Anybody not know Denison? It's Harvard of the Midwest. And then I went to the University of Michigan, but I kept the same slide, is that we would go into roundtables. This is the 360, the 361 firm. So as I told Adrian for his panel, or his roundtable, told Kevin, and if you are the ones leading impact discussion, make sure everyone introduces themselves, right? Everyone's, we're just or inclusive, right? And then if you have the discussion, and there are 2 takeaways. We're all going to come back for a debrief at the end. 2 takeaways are share an insight or 2. What did we really learn over there in the AI data? What did we learn in venture, global markets, impact? And the best insights, and what should we be doing as a community in these sub-communities? What do we want to do next, actionable, right? What kind of events, initiatives should we have? Like what I like to do is try and do the ultimate taxonomy to marry people's values and those SDGs. I would like to marry them to an impact investment if they could find one that could match it. If it's a more sustainable model, we still need the philanthropy, but that's my ultimate data goal, for example. I need help. We need help. So with that, we are officially done with the panels. We're moving to the bar, to the round tables. We'll come back. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.